Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're in the studio. We are live. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be talking about all of the latest Manchester United news. And it does feel like it's deja vu all over again. We're at the stage with a manager where players are questioning his tactics. That's another story we're going to get into. Also, it looks like Ruben Amorim, if he does decide to leave or if United do decide to part company with him, has been offered a bit of a lifeline back in Portugal. So we'll be getting into all that. Let us know what you think about those stories. Make sure you're hitting that like button as well. And if you're not doing so already, please subscribe to the channel. I mean, it is massively deflating that around October, almost every year, it's September, October, it's like an annual thing at United, isn't it? Where the manager's questioned, the players have fell out with him, the results have gone west, and it's all like, you know, do we need to get someone else in? It feels like at least every other year we have this conversation. We certainly had it last year with Erik Ten Hag, and we know what happened there. And it seems like already those conversations are starting around Ruben Amorim. I've had Sky Sports on this morning. Forgive me, I don't know why I do it to myself, but I did. And they're showing the stats that we've spoken about before. I think he's 17th out of the 17 teams that have been in the Premier League for his entire tenure in terms of the amount of points he's got. Obviously, this season hasn't been great. We've lost two already, albeit to two good teams. So the pressure's piling up. And I know before you get into it, you say two good teams. Don't forget the Grimsby game as well. That was talking about the Premier League there. There was the Grimsby game as well. So the pressure's definitely mounting for Ruben Amorim. You've seen a lot of ex-players, ex-United players as well, questioning him. The Class of 92 have been quite vocal. As always, Wayne Rooney, I think there was a quote from him saying he doesn't think things have gotten any better under Ruben Amorim. And I think that's a relatively obvious statement because you can't argue with the evidence. And the evidence is, whilst we have seen some good signs, especially this season in certain games, overall, the points tally has been pretty disastrous. So, where does that leave Ruben Amorim? I'll get to that in a second. Just want to say a big shout out to everyone who's joined us. Akash K, Brian Casey, Tobias Nelson, Colin Couple-Ditch, JB. Sorry if I've missed anyone out. There's loads of people in there in the chat. So, big thank you to everyone. There's a link in the chat as well for the Paddock merch. Stretford Paddock launched our new merchandise. Go and check that out. Let's talk about these Benfica links then, because you can see it here from the Times. Paul Hurst and Charlotte Dunker, both been on the channel, both good stuff, saying that the leading candidate to become Benfica's next president steps up his pursuit to bring Ruben Amorim back to the club after watching the Manchester derby at the Etihad Stadium on Sunday. He must have been the only person in the Etihad who watched that and thought, I'll tell you what, you know what we should do? We should get Ruben Amorim as our manager. I mean, he must have had that idea before he arrived there, because I don't think that performance will have encouraged him to do it by any stretch of the imagination. And before we get into all the nonsense, I'm not saying it's all on Amorim. I'm just saying that wasn't a great advertisement for Amorim ball. So yeah, it looks like he could be going back to Portugal if, lots of ifs and buts, if he wishes to, and if that story pans out. Now look, at the moment he's still a Manchester United manager, and I was looking at some of the quotes from the potential president of Benfica, and he was saying, look, I'm not going to get into that. He's contracted at Manchester United when he was asked about Ruben Amorim. There's also rumours that he could be looking at Bernardo Silva as a potential manager as well. So who knows where the sort of the land may lie when it comes to Benfica's future managers. But with Ruben Amorim, the fact that we're having these conversations is telling, because it isn't just pure paper talk. It isn't just people being ludicrous to suggest this manager is under pressure. He is under pressure. You cannot ignore it. Almost every article I'm reading, every quote I'm seeing from any pundit, any ex-player, any journalist, it's all pointing towards this feels like the beginning of the end. This feels like we're getting towards the stage we've been with David Moyes, with Louis van Gaal, with Jose Mourinho, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I know Ralph Rangnick was temporary, but even with Ralph Rangnick, things went south pretty quickly, didn't they, with players questioning his methods. And obviously with Erik Ten Hag as well, where you start having these stories, these rumours, players not happy with what's going on, players questioning it, ex-players weighing in with their thoughts, usually quite negative about what they're seeing, people saying that things haven't changed, they haven't improved, this isn't good enough, people questioning selection, why isn't this player playing, why isn't that player playing, why is he sticking with this formation, all that stuff. We have been here before as Manchester United fans, post Alex Ferguson, and we're here again. So it'd be kind of stupid to just ignore it and go, no, nonsense that. Now, he has had the backing, if you can call it that, from Ineos. I think there was a story yesterday that's saying that Erik Ten Hag, Ruben Amorim, the board and Ineos are fully behind him. It wasn't quite the vote of confidence, because once a manager gets the vote of confidence, you know his goose is cooked. It wasn't that. It felt like the precursor to that. But like the next thing would be the vote of confidence. However, we know what goes on at Manchester United. We know what has gone on under Ruben Amorim. Now, I do feel like the fans have been behind him. I do feel like that has been going on for quite some time. I saw that last season after the Europa League final where we were all fuming. The Villa game, before the game even kicked off, everyone singing Ruben Amorim chants. He's had the backing of the fans. He's had the support of the fans. And I expect he'll have that at the weekend at Old Trafford on Saturday. I'll be there. And I expect the fans will be getting behind him. However, you have to start winning football matches. It's not that deep. It's simple. Win football matches, you'll be fine. Keep losing them, you'll be under pressure. And the Chelsea game, I said this yesterday on the Paddock podcast, represents a fantastic opportunity, I think, for Ruben Amorim and Manchester United. Now, you might not look at it as a fantastic opportunity, but Chelsea have got a game against Bayern Munich, I think, tomorrow, away. That's a big game for them. Chelsea are a big team, and I think they're a team, if you beat, you get a bit of kudos. We didn't get any kudos for beating Burnley. I think you'll get it if you beat Chelsea. You've got to do it first, but I think you get it. Could give you all a bit of a lift. Can maybe people start to say, okay, that's a good result. That's good. If it's a good performance as well, something could be happening. Get involved in the chat in the comments before we move on. Let us know what you think. James Magnier says, let's just keep supporting him then. Forgive me. Amorim is stubborn, says Muya Man. Players shouldn't be talking about tactics. As a kid, we played football how we was told, but professional players have trouble doing this. How many managers have we been through in 13 years? Ego, says John Paul Hilton. Brian Casey says, Amorim was brought in because of his system, and clearly that's how the club wants us to play. He just needs better players. We still have the same team that wasn't good enough under Erik ten Hag. Let me know what you think about that. Do you feel like it's still not on the manager because he hasn't been given the players? Because he's been given some players. Patrick Dorgu's come in. Aidan Evans probably one for the future, even though he's played quite well when he's been in the first team. Also, we've seen Mateus Cunha, we've seen Brian Mbumo, and we've seen Benjamin Sesko coming in as well. Plus Le Mans, who's not kicked a ball yet for Manchester United, so he can't really say, well, he's had a goalkeeper because he hasn't even played him. So, where do you stand? Do you think this manager has been back? Do you think it's too soon to say that because he hasn't really had the benefit of these players? Cunha didn't even play in the derby because he was injured. Le Mans didn't play in the derby because he only just arrived. So is it unfair to say, well, he's been backed? Or is it fair to say, look, the manager's had signings? And also, I know this is becoming a bit of a catchphrase for me, so forgive me. I say it all the time. Two things can be true as well. You might argue he's not quite had the players that he needs, but he also should do better. Because I think a manager at Manchester United, and I like Ruben Amorim, and I'm backing him, but I think he should be doing better than what he's been doing. I don't think a manager at Manchester United should be 17th in a league table of all the 17 teams that have been in the Premier League since he arrived. I don't think that's good enough. And I think he probably admit that himself. And I think he has admitted that himself. So it needs to improve. And I think Chelsea's a massive game. And I know I say this every year. I think I said it before the Burnley game. After the Grimsby defeat, I said, like, before the, going into this Burnley game, you can't lose this one. Chelsea's another one where you might get away with it's a draw and a good performance, whatever, but if you lose, if you've lost 3 your first 5 games, 4 of your first 6 if you count the Grimsby game, you're going to be in serious trouble. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat in the comments. I want to know what everyone's thinking. It's in this weird situation in the minute, and I said this on the Paddock podcast last night, where I can see everyone's point of view here. I can see the ones that are saying, nah, man, he inherited a mess. Give him time. We go through too many managers. He's not even been in a job a year. Let's stick with the guy. And I can understand people going, Jay, I'm watching garbage most weeks. We're losing every week. What's going on? I think there was a stat. Well, I'm trying to think of it. It was 8 wins in 31 games. It's basically a win a month in the Premier League since he arrived. That's terrible. So it's weird, isn't it? It's usually quite obvious who's right and who's wrong, but on this one, not to be all diplomatic, but I can see both sides of this argument because United are just in a massive quandary at the minute. Dead Pixel says, watching Sesko says everything about the manager. He looks just like Rasmus. Is that a coincidence? I think it's a bit too early to go in on Sesko looking like Rasmus. I get your point. And I think that no matter who you've got up front, whether you've got Erling Haaland, Benjamin Sesko, Rasmus Højlund, whoever, they need service. They need decent service. Erling Haaland is the archetypal, give him 1 or 2 chances and he'll score. He did that yesterday. He did it on Sunday, didn't he? He didn't have loads of chances. He didn't have loads of the ball. I think he had about 3 shots and 2 of them went in. So you need service as a striker. And that's the big sort of problem, or one of the problems that Ruben Amorim has got to fix. He needs to make sure if you've got a striker, they're getting service. There was one ball, I think, over the top where it hit him there, and I think it was given us a handball. And I think we've seen little glimpses from Sesko. I think he's a good player, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. I think Chelsea game might be a great opportunity for him as well. but you've got to give your striker service. You can't blame a striker. I think the criticism with Rasmus Højlund was at times he was too deep. At times he was grappling with defenders on the halfway line. At times his runs weren't probably as good as they should have been. And at times as well, he looked like he was struggling. He looked just like he was done in with it all, obviously arguing with his teammates, kicking the post. He just looked like he lost confidence. And I felt sorry for him. And I stuck up for Rasmus Højlund a lot on this channel. And I remember was talking on Inside United with Laurie Whitwell, and Laurie said to me, you stick up, you seem like you're quite almost upset by the treatment he's getting, because it was minging to go to the games and see the fans had turned on him so much. I don't like seeing that. I understand the frustrations, but it was a bit horrible because he was just getting pelters. And you just thought, this isn't going to have a happy ending. He's gone to, is it Napoli, and he started scoring already. So I understand that, you know, there was a bit of sympathy. I had it myself towards Rasmus Højlund, but ultimately I just don't know if he was quite good enough. With Sesko, I'm hoping, I haven't seen enough of him yet, that he is good enough, but he's got to get service. If you don't get service, it doesn't matter. He ain't going to score goals. Akash K says, when we get into a crossing position, we somehow deliberately ignore Sesko every time. How the F does this even happen? There is nothing wrong with Sesko's movement and positioning. Greedub says, Amorim needs to man up and play a system that suits the players he has until he can get players and play the system he wants. Small steps instead of a big leap of faith. Is that an answer? Because we talk about Carlos Baleba, and do you know what worries me about this? Is this idea that once we get Carlos Baleba in, everything's fixed. And the reason it worries me is we've been here before. I remember under Erik ten Hag when people were saying, and this is, you go back to the game at the Emirates where Declan Rice, I think it was, who got the winner for Arsenal. Garnacho had a goal disallowed and then Arsenal scored just after that and we lost. And I remember people saying, once Amrabat comes in, this team's different. That he's what we need in midfield. He'll fix the problems in midfield. Now, you might laugh at that, but that's what a lot of people were saying. Then it was all, well, this manager just needs Frankie de Jong. If he gets Frankie de Jong, everything's fixed. It always seems to be this issue of like, just this one player. If we get this one player in, everything's going to be rosy. Now, it might be. It might be that once you get Carlos Baleba in, that's great, and we're a completely different team. But we're not going to get Baleba in till at least January, and even that's optimistic. And also, even when we get him, he might take time to settle, or he might be injured for some games, suspended for some games. We can't just have a system that only works or a team that only functions if you get Carlos Baleba in it. So we do need to find a fix. Now, whether that is changing the system, whether it's players stepping up, I don't know. But something has to be sorted before we get the sort of the magical player that's going to fix everything. Otherwise, what we're doing is just writing off the season already. We're only in September. Malp says, this club is unmanageable under these owners. I get that, and I understand the criticism of the owners. Obviously, the Glazers have been nothing but parasitic for Manchester United, and I think they haven't helped matters with some of the appointments they've made, likes of Ed Woodward, of course. Ineos might be doing things differently. Jason Wilcox, Omar Brada, Dan Ashworth, who came and went. We'll have to wait and see how this pans out. It does seem like there's a little bit more joined-up thinking when it comes to transfers. I get the transfers we're making. They seem to fit. They seem to be better decisions, if you will. Like when I've looked at these transfers, I've gone, okay, Brian Mbumo, Mateus Cunha, Sesko, yeah, good, strong players of a certain age that two of them have got Premier League experience. One who hasn't is a little bit younger. Le Mans, we need a goalkeeper. We've gone for someone who potentially could reach the very top. I understand all that. I get it. We'll have to wait and see if it works out, though. Gavin Barker says, we just need to take our chances and score. Stats show we are better in all categories, but scoring. Benfica in the elections on October the 25th, says IC. How many of our previous managers would give their right arm to have the squad Amorim has now, says Dead Pixel. Ali27 says, if we had prime Toni Kroos and Casemiro in this system, we'd almost certainly be fine. The system seems to be the easy thing to criticise. Do you need to change the system, do you think? Do you need to change the formation? Let me know what you think. Let's talk about Bruno Fernandes. I think there's a story about Bruno Fernandes, if we can get that up. We will get it up in a minute. There it is. What next for Ruben Amorim at Manchester United? Bruno Fernandes, dilemma, and drop two players. I just highlighted this because it's a big debate that's going on in it about Bruno Fernandes, about what's going on with him. He was asked about it when in his post-match press conference, about is Bruno Fernandes sort of almost being misused in that deeper role. He got quite prickly. He said, well, if you look at the midfield against Arsenal, the performance against Arsenal, you can see that it was quite good. Yeah, you can stop it there. So, what's going wrong? Should we move him? And he said, well, look, No, we shouldn't move him because look at what we did against Arsenal. We played well. He's got a point. However, no, we've had some more games since then and it hasn't been rosy. So this is via, I think, Steve Railston in the MEN. I think this is one of these opinion pieces that have a little bit of, news in him. Bruno Fernandes is United's best player and Amorim is not getting the best out of him. Fernandes has made a poor start to the campaign and failed to track Phil Foden's run for the opening goal last weekend. Last month, Fernandes made the same mistake against Fulham at Craven Cottage when he didn't track Emil Smith-Rowe, which shows he's struggling with the role's defensive aspects. The evidence from the opening few weeks of the season suggests Fernandes should be relocated further up the pitch and get rid of that. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with that? Do you think that is the answer? Do we need to move Bruno Fernandes? Part of the problem you've got is you've got 2 10s that have come in Ugarte and Mbeumo. So it's like, well, not Ugarte, sorry, Cunha and Mbeumo. So does that give you another issue? Because, okay, if Bruno Fernandes is one of your 10s, then what happens to them two? Plus you've got Benjamin Sesko as your striker. How do they all work together? I'm not really liking Bruno in his deeper role. I didn't like it last season. I keep going on about it, but it stayed with me. You look at the Europa League final. Big players turn up in big games, and you want your big players turning up in big games. And Bruno Fernandes is one of the best players we've had in recent years. Certainly, for me, the best signing post Sir Alex Ferguson. Did he turn up in that final? No, he didn't. And I think a big part of the problem was the role he was asked to do. It doesn't suit him. I think actually when he gave the ball away, it led to their goal. So, I don't know, man. I just don't think we're getting the best out of Bruno Fernandes. I think that's obvious. And I like Bruno Fernandes. And I want to see him nearer the business end of the pitch. The issue you've got is now you've got Mbeumo and Cunha. What do you do? How does it work? What's the sort of the answer to fitting them all in? Do you drop one of Mbeumo and Cunha? Do you move Mbeumo up front and have Cunha and Bruno as your number 10s? And then does that mean that Sesko misses out? Let me know what you think. Ali27 says, Bruno has to be in the team, just not in the 2. Santa Not says, how about we move the captaincy from Bruno to De Ligt? He's been here more than long enough and not make Bruno undroppable. It's a decent comment, that. Does that carry some weight there? Is that part of the issue that you've got Bruno as your captain? It's like, well, we can't drop Bruno as our captain. Does the manager need to make a big statement? The thing is, right, I'm going to get into this. Have we had the dressing room story? So just on the dressing room. If you're losing the dressing room, this is a story from Dave McDonnell in the Mirror. Ruben Amorim losing Man United dressing room with players left frustrated and confused. Can you afford to alienate your captain? Are you in a strong enough position, if this is true, where you go, right, I'm going to drop my captain. I'm going to take the armband off him and I'm going to give it to De Ligt. Because I don't mind De Ligt as captain. I've done a video on De Ligt, how wonderful I think he is, and I stand by it. Can you afford, though, to go, right, let's drop Bruno, give the captaincy to De Ligt? I don't think it's the worst idea. I understand the thinking behind it. However, politically almost, if you've got a dressing room where there's a little bit of people murmurings, people aren't happy, if the captain then joins those people that aren't happy with you because you've dropped him, does that add to your woes? Let me know what you think. I think it's a difficult situation for Ruben Amorim. And I don't know what is going on in the Old Trafford dressing room. I don't know how many players are fed up with him. I don't know how many players are questioning his tactics. I don't know what the feeling is. Do the players think that he's not good enough? Do the players actually buy into what he's trying to do? And he's just 1 or 2 who maybe aren't getting as much game time, who are annoyed. What's going on? We don't really know. I just feel that we've been here before. I'll keep going back to it because we've been here before with these rumours, these reports, and they generally tend to lead somewhere. Whenever we hear it, it generally tends to lead to the beginning of the end for a manager. We've had it under every manager post Fergie, and within a few months, usually they're gone. Let's talk about Manuel Ugarte. There was a possibility of Manuel Ugarte leaving Manchester United this past summer, according to Fabrizio Romano. Italian clubs were interested, but United closed the door to a potential loan move. A permanent deal proposal in 2026 might change the situation. Weird one with Ugarte, innit? It doesn't seem to be everyone's favourite in terms of the Manchester United fan base. Thought he did all right in spells against Manchester City. There's still a few flaws in his game, though, and I think the jury's out. I think that's safe to say. There you go. Malp says, Ugarte has to go. He's terrible. I don't think there's many that absolutely back him. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. He's just not been quite the player we thought we were going to, or we needed. Whether there is a role for him at Manchester United in the future. We'll have to wait and see. I think in an ideal world, he'd be one of those two midfielders. He'd have the legs that you need, the sort of the Carlos Baleba type player, but he ain't that guy. So we'll have to wait and see whether the manager is going to stick with him, or if the manager leaves, whether the new manager comes in and thinks Manuel Ugarte could be part of Manchester United's future. I just don't know, to be honest with you. Brian Casey said, close the door because we weren't going to be buying a midfielder. If we had more funds, reckon there's a lot of players that would have moved on. We've moved on a lot of players, haven't we? And there's still probably some more that could go on. But that's been a lot of overhaul at Manchester United in terms of the squad, in terms of the team. You look at some of the big players that have left Manchester United, and look at some of the big names that have come in as well. There has been this sort of open heart surgery that Ralph Rangnick spoke about. There's been a lot of that going on over the last few years. And when you look at the players that are still here, the players that people look at as the problem players, how many of them are left? The bomb squad have gone. Then you're looking at, I know Luke Shaw was getting a bit of stick. Maguire made a mistake, but Maguire don't even start. And Luke Shaw's been injured for about most of the last couple of years. So I don't know whether you can keep going back to these are the same players that threw the other managers under the bus, as Roy Keane said, because a lot of them are new. There just seems to be something, I don't know, something just not right at Manchester United. Whether it's tactics, the formation, the culture, the mentality, whatever you want to call it, you cannot deny that for the last few years, Manchester United have been massively, massively underperforming. We've gone from a team that was third in Erik Ten Hag's first season to 8th to 15th to wherever we are now. I don't even look at the table anymore. It's just not good enough, is it? Ant L says, give Ugarte a proper 8 next to him and he will shine. Admin D'Souza says, Shaw here is a kicker in the teeth of transfer progress. Declan Fox says, this is a championship team getting beat by a second division team. Ha. Ali27 says, Ugarte has his good moments and awful moments. West Ham last season. Yeah, West Ham last season felt like a big, bad moment, didn't it? And I think that's when the manager went, you can forget about playing in the Europa League final. I think Ruben Amorim saw his arse with that performance and the fact he was bullied in that game. But I digress. Let's not go backwards. We're back later on. Anyway, Adam McCullough's going to be here for Uncensored. Is going to cheer us all up. We need a bit of laughter, don't we, in our lives after the dismal season so far. So make sure you're not doing so already. You are hitting like, share, and subscribe. Go and check out some of the Paddock merch we've got as well. There's a link in the chat and in the description for that. Go and check out our new line of merchandise. I'm Jay Motti. This has been the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.